Go. Hello and welcome to the Lost Confederacy channel. This is week 7 of the 13-week fiscal program of recovery for American prisoners of war. You have myself, Chief Biko. Today we have Chief Alligator as well as Chief Quietwater. And here, as always, we focus more so on that first letter in the acronym APOW, which is American. Today we will have Chief Quietwater start with this week's American inventor.
All righty, let's see here. Just one moment. Okay, so this week I have F.R. Perryman, Perryman. I did not find literally any information on him in regards to, I do know that he lived in Chicago, Illinois. However, I'm not sure of his birth date, when he died or anything like that. But basically he invented the caterer's tray table. And basically, let me see, I'm gonna share my, can I share my screen? Basically it's a table where it was used for, hold on one second, guys. It was used for personal use when people used to like cater in people's personal homes. And okay, let me see here. Hold on one second. I had this pulled up. Here it is. Okay, let me share my screen. And so, can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm sure everyone has seen this kind of tray before. And so basically people used it back when it was invented, just a economical way or an easier way to serve food and be able to fold it up and just store it away so it's out of sight. And that's it. I don't have any other information on him in regards to where he's from or anything like that.
Does he have a federal patent number?
Oh, I'm sorry, the federal, let me pull it up, I'm sorry. So the patent number is 468038A, and then the patent date is February 2nd, 1892. And that's it.
No, that's a good one. Definitely.
Just little things like that that you just
No.
never think of that we created. Like I'm sure everyone have or has had one of those tables, especially
Definitely.
like the older generation.
I remember them little TV dinner. Definitely remember those. So no, that's interesting to see that American invented that.
Exactly. Yeah.
You see here. Next, we will have Chief Alligator with this week's Dr. Woodson quote. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And which quote we doing this week there?
Number 10. And would you like to share a little bit about why we do a Dr. Carter G. Woodson quote?
Yeah, pretty much we're honoring the ancestor in regards to the person that actually created this month for us. As we stated before, it started off as Black History Week. Again, we know that is American history, and then it turned into American History Month. So we definitely got to honor the ancestor for, again, putting this information and doing the work for our people in regards to our history. A lot of these quotes still ring true today. Some, well, yeah, a lot of them being unfortunate since they are still reigning true today. But it's definitely good for us to understand this and then kind of think back and say, okay, we were dealing with this back then. We definitely got to pick up the pace and get some things rolling if it's still relevant today.
Chief Quietwater, what's your thoughts on Dr. Carter G. Woodson?
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, he is the creator of this month. But as you've stated before, and as we have proven that, you know, we can go every week from K through 12th grade of a different inventor. So, you know, even though this one is, you know, they concentrate on the month of February, we can go on and on and on about quote unquote Black history or American history in regards to what we provide to this world.
Yep, I asked y'all that because 9 out of 10 people don't even know who created American history, aka Black History Month. That's why I asked y'all that. As small as that is to us, because we do it on a weekly basis and we've been doing it, the reality is most of us are the miseducated Negro. Because if you ask them who Dr. Carter G. Woodson is, they don't even know. I'm gonna do quote 10. Negroes do not need someone to guide them to what persons of another race have developed. They must be taught to think and develop something for themselves. It is most pathetic to see Negroes begging others for a chance as we have been doing recently. Do not force us into starvation, we said. Let us come into your stores and factories and do a part of what you are doing to profit by our trade. The Negro as a slave, we know that to be prisoner of war, developed this fatal sort of dependency and restricted mainly to menial service and drudgery during nominal freedom. He has not grown out of it. Now the Negro is facing the ordeal of either learning to do for himself or to die out gradually in the breadline in the ghetto. And I chose this quote today for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, the Negro needing someone to guide them from what somebody from another race has developed. Everybody can't do that. I understand that. That's why we have inventors that brought things to life. That's why you have people that create businesses to employ their people. So everybody can't do that. But this idea that we're completely dependent on them, today being a Super Bowl, we know 90% or 80% of the people that are going to participate on the field in the operations of that business called the NFL are us. And so we haven't come up with our own sports businesses or any type of industries since we've been military occupied. The second thing that jumps out to me is when it says, let us come into your stores and factories and do a part of what you are doing to profit by our trade, which means we were the skilled people. And so now, being under military occupation, everything was taken from us. So this idea that we have to do for ourselves, here we are 100 years later, and I'm going to push back against what Dr. Carter G. Woodson stated 100 years ago. We do not have to recreate in order to do for ourselves. What we must do is take back what our ancestors had created that we were supposed to inherit. That's one of the biggest things that we're doing on a weekly basis. We're showing you that this do for self mentality, yes, that's true, but it's already been created. We just didn't inherit it. It was stolen from us through military occupation. Y'all can build on whatever jumps out to y'all, but this one, it takes a lot of work behind the scenes to be able to get outside of the box of someone else's structure, create your own. And again, the 10% that does that of our group, salute those people, because it's not easy. If everybody could do it, everybody would be doing it. I'll stop right there and let y'all share. I'll get that link for you.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, it would be easier for us to go to take back instead of trying to create from scratch what it is that we've already created. We created this. So I think that it would be easier for us to just get back what's rightfully ours, basically.
No, I'm in alignment with that too. Definitely that part where he says, you know, allow us to work in you all's businesses to profit from our trade. Like you said, we were the skilled labor, but not only that, we were the inventors of these industries. So instead of us being the owners and actually running the operations, now we're handing that duty off to them to manage us. And it's
Exactly.
kind of, you know, backwards thinking. It's saw something earlier this week where it was like, yeah, we don't want to be the managers. We don't want to be the supervisors. We'll rather just be the employee at this point. Which again, it just shows a backwards mentality as a group. So we just got to get back to that, owning, operating, actually being skillful with these trades. That way we can have our own self-sustaining economy. Like even just riding down the street, if a power line were to go out, who are those that's actually going to be able to fix it?
Right. And just the fact that we, just showing people, and I think I always have to go back to the fact that I think it's the lack of knowledge that we have, that if we knew that we were the ones who created pretty much everything to make the wheels turn on this land, they'll understand that we do have the power to do it, and we don't have to start from scratch, and we would have a different mentality in regards to owning and producing our own things.
No, I 100% agree. I 100% agree. And that's just the thing we have to get back to, as we stated. And that's something that we're all working towards doing, just as a collective. Like you said, the 10% that are here, at least willing to listen and actually put in the work. Those gonna be the difference makers. A lot of our majority of our group probably, out celebrating, out about to go ahead and kick back and watch the game. But
Right.
as adults, we understand that there's work to do. We don't have time for leisure at this point. We've been at leisure for over, I'd say 50, 60 plus years. So at this point, vacation is over with. We have to get back to work as a collective. With that, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the Constitution. And basically, again, just highlight and point out what we kind of did last week in regards to just showing the difference in money there. The difference in the money. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And that link should be dropped as far as the section we're going to be reading within the chat, so you all can kind of follow along. Back up real quick. Okay, here we go. So we're going to read section 10. And section 10 reads, no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. So I know we definitely dove deep into this last week. Actually going to show the same images in regards to what the actual tender looked like that you can actually turn in to redeem your silver. Going to show that. And then we're just going to do a quick comparison. Has anybody in the chat, been paid with these type of certificates? Because again, we're reading right here from this Constitution that the only thing that can be actual payment towards debts would have to be gold and silver. Plain and simple. Now, what they were dealing with prior to that was actually certificates that you can actually redeem in the bank, like any local bank. Didn't have to be your Federal Reserve Bank. It could be any local bank, and you can actually get that silver or those gold redemptions, those actual coins. So I'm gonna actually show again my screen. Stop sharing for a bit. And just pose the question again to the audience, the chat, because I know personally I've never seen any of these certificates. I can't even call them dollar bills because that's not even what they are. So I'm gonna zoom in a little bit more. See if this is good. How we looking? Is it pretty clear on you all side? Okay. So again, the first thing we gotta really take note of, it says right here at the top, silver certificate. Now, if anybody has a $5 bill, $1 bill, any type of denomination that you may currently have, just pull it out and see if it says silver certificate. And if it does not, see what it actually says. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing so you can see what Chief Alligator is holding up. Let me see, might be able to pin you. So if you all are viewing exactly what we're viewing, on the top of this $5 bill that Chief Alligator is holding up, it says Federal Reserve Note, $5. Now, that is not what that just stated. That is not what that just stated in the document or the actual image of that silver certificate. Clearly states silver certificate, the United States of America. This certificate that there is, this certifies that there is on deposit in the Treasury of the United States. So anytime you deposit this, you would receive your silver coins. Again, $5 in fine silver payable to the bearer on demand. So we could just see the difference between what Chief Alligator just showed and this actual image here. And it's not just a $5 bill. These are some $2 bill images as well, but also the $1 bill. Same thing, silver certificate. This certifies that there is on deposit in the Treasury of the United States, $1 in silver payable to the bearer on demand. So again, you have to ask yourselves, has anybody in the chat ever been paid money? Because I know personally, I've never been paid any dollar that looks anything like this. And I'll let you all kind of vouch for yourself. Chief Quietwater, have you ever been paid anything that looks remotely close to this?
Not at all. Not one time, ever.
At all. So again, that just begs the question, why are we dealing with this military occupation? Why are we dealing with the symptoms from military occupation, your racism, your redlining, when there is no money? And it's not like they're just withholding this from the Americans. They're withholding it from all of their people underneath this government. They're U.S. citizens is alike. Even this verbiage, the certificate is legal tender for all payments, all debts, public and private. Now, this is in alignment with their constitution, but the money we're getting paid now, absolutely not. So again, what we're just highlighting is that they're not playing by their own rules to their game. So why are we following it? Why haven't we established our own? Anybody kind of want to build off of that before we jump back into the 1964 civil rights?
I mean, basically, as we've stated before, you know, going along with it and agreeing with it is giving our consent to continue. If we don't change anything, nothing changes. So I think that just by us going along with what they just dish out to us, we are consenting to the treatment that we get in return.
Right, correct.
For me, it's think and grow rich. We have to start thinking in order to grow. Our grandparents had a lot of trauma going on in the 60s with all the leaders of the civil rights movement being killed. So they took the money out in 1971, and then we know, based on history, the United States government was the distribution arm for putting heroin in our communities. And then the following decade, or the next 20 years, was cocaine being put in our neighborhoods via the government being the distribution arm. And we can say that because Oliver North had a hearing in the 80s where he admitted to that. And you have people like the real Rick Ross that represented themselves and got from up under a life sentence, who's now telling that he was actually buying cocaine from the United States government. So here we are now, fast forward to 2020, and the government was a distribution arm again with the COVID-19 vaccine under Operation Warp Speed. So I think what we have to do, because the Jewish media, our people are under a trance due to media. But I just want to say this, when people always talk about the quote unquote drug game, it's 3 levels to business. It's manufacturing, it's distributing, and then it's dealers. The media always focuses on the distributors and the dealers. They never talk about the manufacturer. There could be no drugs if there wasn't manufacturing. So what we get shown to us through media is always dealers. It don't matter whether they're buying 100 pounds, 100 keys, they're dealers. they're not distributors. Freeway Rick Ross was a distributor, right? But even still, he's not manufacturing. This stuff is being manufactured from other land masses on planet Earth. So that's the last point I'll throw in. Again, we don't know how to think anymore. If the TV doesn't tell it to us, we don't know how to do our own research. And so that's why we're kind of we got to recover. We're a sick group of people. We don't know who we are, so we don't know what to hold this government accountable for. Because yeah, we got a fucked up past. We got liabilities, being prisoners of war, all the murders that's never been lawfully tried, but we got more assets than liabilities. When you look at all the inventions, all the towns we had, the Black Wall Streets, you know, that's just one town out of thousands. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to show people that, yeah, it's fucked up. We do get murdered, you know, this government is in the business of murdering us. Every 3 months, every fiscal quarter, you're going to see countless examples of us being portrayed, especially the men. You're going to see us degraded, killed, and things of that nature. But our assets outweigh our liabilities because we've given way more to the world than what they depict us as. We just have to turn the TV off.
Great point. Great point. With that, we'll go ahead and jump into the 1964 Civil Rights Act. We left off on page 21, subsection G. I'll go ahead and start us off this weekend. Let me go ahead and scroll it down a little bit. All right. So if the court finds that the respondent has intentionally engaged in or is intentionally engaging in an unlawful employment practice charged in the complaint, the court may enjoin the respondent from engaging in such unlawful employment practice and other such affirmative action as may be appropriate, which may include reinstatement or hiring of employees with or without back pay, payable by the employer, employment agency, or labor organization, as the case may be, responsible for the unlawful employment practice. Interim earnings or other amounts earnable with reasonable diligence by the person or persons discriminating against shall operate to reduce the back pay otherwise allowable. No order of the court shall require the admission or reinstatement of an individual as a member of a union or the hiring, reinstatement or promotion of an individual as an employee or the payment to him of any back pay. If such individual was refused admission, suspended or expelled, or was refused employment or advancement, or was suspended or discharged for any reason other than discrimination on amount of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, or in violation of section 704A. So what I'm seeing here is that even with a court order, if they find that the employer did engage in some discrimination, unlawful employment practice, that they are not, I guess, held liable to have back pay, and that the court cannot make that employer or company liable for that back pay. Not only that, they are not liable to rehire them if they are deemed to be unlawfully discriminating against that individual. So it seems like just a bunch of fluff in regards to what subsection G just read. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, they got the structures laid out for what the court should or shouldn't be able to do. But I'm gonna go back to what I said last week. How are they accounting for all of these illegal citizens that are working for these Fortune 500 companies in any downtown city, USA, Detroit, New York, LA, Atlanta, Miami? You go into the what would that be? Would that be the not the entertainment? Hospitality sector. When you start talking about hotels and you go into the kitchen area or the housekeeping, none of those people can speak English, so they're being paid under the table. The fact that that's going on, basically what they're doing is they're cheating, just like the government. They're creating counterfeit money. You got companies who can unlawfully hire people, which means they don't have to pay payroll, right? Which means your kid doesn't get an opportunity for employment. You know, so we have to look at this from a big picture. You know, what would it look like if they cleaned up all the criminal behavior from the business owners that are hiring these non-US citizens? You know, now your daughter or your son in high school can go down there and work in housekeeping and get hotel discounts if they want to stay on the weekend, things like that. You know, just little things like that that were pushed out of industries due to criminal behavior. Call it what it is.
And I think that goes back to one of the steps, you know, that we always say in regards to just not participating, you know, just kind of boycotting people who don't hire our people, you know, and just starve them out and see how long we could do that and see where that goes.
Right. Excellent point. Excellent points made by both of y'all. And like you said, that's just one sector. That's just one industry. We all know, or at least have heard, if you ever just glanced at a TV in regards to how the same structure is put within the agricultural industry as well. How we have, you know, illegal immigrants working in these farms, different things of that nature. Again, taking the opportunity away from the American to have business deals with these stores, with these grocery lines, things of that nature. So taking, again, money out from the American, again, illegally paying illegals, people who aren't US citizens, again, not paying taxes, things of this nature, but also, again, removing the opportunity from the American. So at this point, it's just, yeah, we're seeing the procedure, but again, this is pretty much just the smoking gun or the evidence that displays that they're not following their own procedures, just like when it comes to their constitution. I'll continue here on subsection H. The provisions of the act entitled an act to amend the judicial code and define and limit the jurisdiction of courts sitting in equity and for other purposes, approved March 23rd, 1932, shall not apply with respect to civil actions brought under this section. Subsection I, in any case in which an employer, employment agency, or labor organization fails to comply with an order of a court issued in a civil action brought under subsection E, the commission may commence proceedings to compel compliance with such order. So again, who is a part of this commission? Because again, it's not saying the commission will, it says may, meaning that it's up to their determination if they want to pursue, which we obviously seen as Chief Alligator as well as Chief Quietwater gave examples. They're not acting on their duties in regards to that. So it's a lot of turning the other cheek, a lot of maze happening within just those industries. But again, there's multiple industries in which they're turning a blind eye towards. Subsection J, any civil action brought under subsection E and any proceedings brought under subsection I shall be subject to appeal as provided in section 1291 and 1292, Title 28, United States Code. In any action or proceedings under this title, the court in its discretion may allow the prevailing party other than the commission or the United States a reasonable attorney's fee as part of the cost, and the commission in the United States shall be liable for costs the same as a private person. So again, just more structures and procedures, but again, none of these are actually being followed.
And just make a personal note to yourself. Title 28, you will hear that a lot when it pertains to our group of people. We lawyers attack this title for a lot of things that happen to us, right? Since integration or since the intense military occupation. So just make a mental note of that. Again, these are things we're supposed to know because this is our history. So when you hear Title 28, there's an ongoing battle between the United States government and our group of people. When you hear people talking about how they're gutting the Civil Rights Act, right? What we're doing on our own is we're understanding, hell, we would never specifically include it. So even the illusion that we've been able to attach ourselves to through this Civil Rights Act, they've been gutting that narrowing it down as well. And we're just furthering the make-believe at this point, where a dog has more right as a legal person than the American male like myself. I'm gonna say that again because it's a fact. A dog has more rights as a legal person than myself, the American male. We see that with countless murders on video of us. It's just a matter of time before it hits your family, and there's nowhere you can go. There's nowhere that's going to have your back and get quote unquote justice for you. You can't go to the Urban League. You can't go to the NAACP. Your sorority won't matter. Your Black caucus isn't going to be there. We're just trying to just bring that to the light that we have nobody advocating for us. I'll stop right there.
No, excellent points being made, and sadly, but it's true. Like you said, nobody's advocating for us, and also don't have that protective arm. Nobody's going to actually protect us outside of us. So just some things to think about as we continue to take this journey. All right, let's see, where did I leave off on K? So subsection, I think it's section 707. So section 707, whenever the Attorney General has reasonable cause to believe that any person or group of persons is engaged in a pattern or practice of resistance to the full enjoyment of any of the rights secured by this title, and that the pattern or practice is of such a nature and is intended to deny the full exercise of the rights herein described, the Attorney General may bring a civil action in the appropriate district court of the United States by filing with it a complaint signed by him or, in his absence, the acting Attorney General, 2, setting forth facts pertaining to such pattern or practice, and 3, requesting such relief, including an application for a permanent or temporary injunction, restraining order, or other order against the person or persons responsible for such pattern or practice, as he deems necessary to ensure the full enjoyment of the rights herein described. So let's see who has that power again. Intended to deny the full exercise of the rights herein after the Attorney General may bring. So again, the Attorney General may bring these 3 steps or actions to the court to have it ruled upon for a particular business or persons. But again, who is this Attorney General? Obviously, it's not an American. If it was, then a lot of these industries, as Chief Quietwater and Chief Alligator alluded to, would be cleaned up. A lot of our children, people would have employment opportunities in these businesses, again, that don't just pertain to entertainment or the commonality of that, whether it be sports or something along those lines. It'd actually be something that we created. So again, you're talking about hospitality, you're talking about agriculture, we're talking about, industrial. So just being able to fix or work on certain machinery, things of that nature. Our children would, or our people as well, would have those opportunities in these fields. But again, who is determining this, who is deeming this if necessary, and that is the Attorney General, which we obviously know is not one of us. And if it is, they're basically useless at this point, just like the Congressional Black Caucus.
And that does put a lot of light on who we look for to be our spokespeople, who we look to speak for us, who we look to appoint to sit in the rooms that, that they're making these decisions in. We have to be more mindful of holding our vote and, not just voting for someone because they're quote unquote Black or they look like us or, those foolish things. We have to be more conscious of how we can get what we want and utilize the power that we really truly have if we just all come together and do what we need to do.
Right. We think about court process because you're talking about Attorney General and how you got to first go through the initial court process, and then you got the right to appeal it, and then you can go to the Attorney General can pick it up. That's time consuming. And so what they know, if you're a federal employee or if you're within the federal court system, things don't move fast in the public. Public and private are two different things. You'll get quicker service or better service from private businesses than you will go into the public. The public will be to get your driver's license renewed or going to do a civil court case or a federal civil court case in this matter. Those people are typically slow because they know it takes an act of Congress for them to lose that job once they get it. So that's the harsh reality if you're trying to apply what we're reading, is the time that goes by while you're unemployed trying to get that job back due to discrimination. That's what they have on their side. Are you going to wait out and go through this whole process for 3 years, for them to tell you that we'll reimburse you your back pay or give you an opportunity back? So just want to throw that in as well. When you're talking about this system, these people are public servants, and that's a hard pill for us to swallow because we're afraid of everything. When I'm talking about we, I'm talking about niggas. Niggas are afraid of everything. You have to ascend past nigga and go into being a man or being a master. Niggas are afraid of everything. But once you start going into these different public sectors and start ascending within the civil structure or the social structure in society, you start understanding the levels to the game. Your most incompetent people work in the public. They have to jump through hoops to get that opportunity, whether it be the background, the drug test, and all this and that. But once they get in there, they're the slowest and sorriest people. Those of us that have gone through those processes, we know and understand that. So that's the only one flaw about what we're reading right here with the federal court procedure. You have to take into account the time that has to go by if your case gets accepted for discrimination and if you're willing to wait it out to quote unquote, get the federal government to look out for you.
Great points, great points. Anybody want to pick up on subsection B here, the district courts?
I can.
Okay.
The district courts of the United States shall have and shall exercise jurisdiction of proceedings instituted pursuant to this section. And in any such proceeding, the Attorney General may file with the clerk of such court a request that a court of 3 judges be convened to hear and determine the case. Such request by the Attorney General shall be accompanied by a certificate that, in his opinion, the case is of general public importance. A copy of the certificate and request for the 3-judge court shall be immediately furnished by such clerk to the chief judge of the circuit, or in his absence, the presiding circuit judge of the circuit in which the case is pending. So basically, let me see, this is saying basically the Attorney General basically have to feel that the case is important, and they are the ones who makes that judgment in regards to if it's important to the general public, I guess. Let me see here. Where did I leave off? Okay, upon receipt of such request, it shall be the duty of the chief judge of the circuit or of such request. It shall be the duty of the chief judge of the circuit or the presiding circuit judge, as the case may be, to designate immediately 3 judges in such circuit, of whom at least one shall be a circuit judge and another of whom shall be a circuit, oh my goodness, let me see. Of whom at least shall one be a circuit judge and another of whom shall be a district judge of the court in which the proceeding was instituted, to hear and determine such case. And it shall be the duty of the judges so designated to assign the case for hearing at the earliest practicable date, to participate in the hearing and determination thereof, and to cause the case to be in every way expedited. An appeal from the final judgment of such court will lie to the Supreme Court. So basically just kind of the procedure and how things are escalated to different levels of the court. Is that what that is?
Yeah, that's what it's reading. And it kind of goes what Chief Alligator just stating. They're saying it's supposed to be expedited. They're saying it's supposed to be happening in a quick manner. But again, as he stated, they're going to draw it out. Especially with something in regards to our group. So yeah, it's funny how they'll contradict themselves when it comes to our group in particular. And it's for a reason, because again, this wasn't really supposed to be for us. We were
For
just,
us.
again, introduced into this by default, basically.
Right. And again, we have to keep in mind that we have to stop trying to include ourselves in their processes and procedures, because it wasn't for us, basically.
Correct.
All righty.
I just want to read that first sentence of the quote again, because it applies to what you're reading right now, Chief Whitewater. The first sentence in that Dr. Carter G. Woodson quote for today, quote 10, Negroes do not need someone to guide them to what persons of another race have developed. That's exactly what we're reading right now. This is something the European developed. We don't need your procedures.
Right.
But we have to think on a mastery level to create our own structure to go against their structure. And we're not willing to do that at this point. I'll stop.
Right. Okay. Can you scroll up just a little bit? Okay. In the event the Attorney General fails to file such a request in any such proceeding, it shall be the duty of the Chief Judge of the district, or in his absence, the acting Chief Judge, in which the case is pending, immediately to designate a judge in such district to hear and determine the case. In the event that no judge in the district is available to hear and determine the case, the Chief Judge of the district or the acting Chief Judge, as the case may be, shall certify this fact to the Chief Judge of the circuit, or in his absence, the acting Chief Judge, who shall then designate a district or circuit judge of the circuit to hear and determine the case. It shall be the duty of the judge designated pursuant to the section to assign the case for hearing at the earliest practicable date, and to cause the case to be in every way expedited. Okay.
Now there's a key in there that I just want to share with y'all and everybody in the chat. Who has the most responsibility out of all those judges on that section you just read?
The circuit judge?
The chief judge.
A chief judge, yeah.
Everything goes back to your chief judge. So from personal experience, when I had once you understand this, then you know if you're going to go into the system, how to strategically attack it. I'm just sharing this information from my own personal experience. When I had a custody case, you can request a judge. Anytime you have a court situation, you always want the chief judge. Why do you want the chief judge? The chief judge is the most seasoned and most experienced judge out of all the judges in that courthouse. That's what I wanted to share with people. You got to look at it like that. I don't want the one that just got voted in, who might be a real estate attorney and he's a judge. You know, you don't want somebody who specialized in one subject matter to be hearing a case that he got no experience over. So you always want the chief judge on a case. Just wanted to throw that in because that person has seen more cases, has more experience, is more abreast of the law. 9 times out of 10, his team, which would be his court reporter, his clerk, each judge has a team. That chief judge, his team, he picks who he wants on his team. Normally, those are going to be the best people. So just wanted to throw that little bone in. You got it, Chief Whitewater.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Just in regards to business structure too. Like if somebody's calling in for a complaint and they're speaking with their rep, and like, no, let me speak to your manager, your supervisor, let me speak to the highest person that's most knowing of how this structure works, because you're fumbling over exactly how this procedure is supposed to go. So that's a great example.
Right. Okay. Effect on state laws, section 708. Nothing in this title shall be deemed to exempt or relieve any person from any liability, duty, penalty, or punishment provided by any present or future law of any state or political subdivision of a state, other than in any such law which purports to require or permit the doing of any act which would be unlawful employment practice under this title. So basically they're saying you have to go by the rules, I guess, right? Which they don't even go by.
Exactly.
Okay. Investigations, inspections, records, state agencies. Section 709A, in connection with any investigation of a charge filed under Section 706, the commission or its designated representative shall at all reasonable times have access to, for the purpose of examination, and the right to copy any evidence of any person being investigated or proceeded against that relates to unlawful employment practices covered by this title and is relevant to the charge under investigation. B, the commission may cooperate with state and local agencies charged with the administration of state fair employment practices, laws, and with the consent of such agencies, may for the purpose of carrying out its functions and duties under this title and within the limitation of funds appropriated specifically for such purpose, utilize the services of such agencies and their employees, and notwithstanding any other provisions of law, may reimburse such agencies and their employees for services rendered to assist the commission in carrying out this title. All right. What does that say? Let me see. Can you go up again?
Yeah, we're just talking procedure.
Just procedure.
What's
Okay.
supposed to happen?
What?
Who does what?
Mhm.
Who you should be looking to, again, we're going back to this commission. So who's on the commission, right? Who are these
Right.
people? And then again, they're public servants. They're not lords, you know,
Right.
who's seasoned? Who really knows what the fuck they're doing is what I'm saying. If I just put it in everyday terms, stop putting people on pedestals because they have public servant positions. 8 out of 10 of them people don't know what the fuck they're doing. That's why we're losing as a group of people. It's unfortunate, but the only reason that we can come out and say this, because once we start studying to show ourselves approved as everyday people, we can start to see how these people that have been put in front of us that's supposed to serve us, they don't know what it's like to do the work and serve the people. They're used to going through the faking the funk, you know, going to the luncheons, dressing a certain way, learning how to enter and exit the room, all a bunch of bullshit. You either know what you're doing or you don't. I can give a damn how you enter the room. Can you get the job done?
And that's the thing. What can they show that they've done? I mean, Congressional Black Caucus, what can y'all really show us that you have, you know, completed within these last 60 years that you've been in place?
Correct. And what's the number one thing that they throw in our face when we push back and we ask these questions, Chief Quietwater, Chief Biko? They hide behind their, you know, I'm an HBCU graduate. What the fuck?
Right.
You doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
You know, so you gotta come as adults and think real world. You either getting it done or you're not.
Facts.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. C, wait a minute. No. In furtherance of such cooperative efforts, the commission may enter into written agreements with such state or local agencies, and such agreements may include provisions under which the commission shall refrain from processing a charge in any cases or class of cases specified in any agreement, and under which no person may bring a civil action under Section 706 in any cases or class of cases so specified, or under which the commission shall relieve any person or class of persons in such state or locality from requirements imposed under this section. The commission shall rescind any such agreement whenever it determines that the agreement no longer serves the interest of effective enforcement of this title. C, except as provided in subsection D, every employer, employment agency, and labor organization subject to this title, 1, make and keep such records relevant to the determinations of whether unlawful employment practices have been or are being committed. 2, preserve such records or such periods. And 3, make such reports therefrom as the commission shall prescribe by regulation or order after public hearing as reasonable, necessary, and appropriate for the enforcement of the title or the regulations or orders thereunder. The commission shall, by regulation, require each employer, labor organization, and joint labor management committee subject to this title, which controls an apprenticeship or other training program to maintain such records as are reasonably necessary to carry out the purpose of this title, including but not limited to a list of applicants who wish to participate in such programs, including the chronological order in which such applicants were received, and shall furnish to the commission upon request a detailed description of the manner in which persons are selected to participate in the apprenticeship or other training programs. Any employer, employment agency, labor organization, or joint labor management committee which believes that the application to it of any regulation or order issued under this section would result in undue hardship. One, apply to the commission for an exemption from the application of such regulation order, or two, bring a civil action in the United States District Court for the district where such records are kept. If the commission or the court, as the case may be, finds that the application of the regulation or order to the employer, employment agency, or labor organization in question would impose an undue hardship, the commission or the court, as the case may be, may grant appropriate relief. So again, just procedure in regards to how you're muted.
Yeah, just the responsibility of the commission. That's all you did. You just read detail what the commission is responsible for. You do have a couple of questions in the chat that I just took a peek at. Michelle Marquez, which I think she's the one that gave us the law codes.
Yeah, the prisoners of war. Yeah.
Yeah, she said, what I don't get is that employee has the etymology meaning slave. A slave has no rights. Can someone look up the legal definition of employee so we can get back to that question?
Yeah.
And Cherokee Tulu said a notary has more power than a judge. From my experience, the judge is the referee in a court case. I'm speaking from personal experience. I've been through Superior Court and the Court of Appeals in the estate that I reside, and I represented myself. The notary allows you not to have an attorney. So every time a notary notarizes a document that you're going to give to the clerk of court to file on a case, that's the power of the notary. Judge, and this is coming from my experience, and shout out to Jordan Maxwell, because that's who gave me this information for me to get enough courage to walk down there and represent myself years ago in a custody case. And High Frequency Radio. Those were the two people that I listened to. But the judge is the referee in a civil matter. The plaintiff is the asset. The defendant is the liability. Right. So if you bring if you pay to have the sheriff serve the other person, you're the plaintiff. Look at yourself as the asset. The judge is going to sit there and determine, in a case like mine, let me be specific. I'm not going to waste my time and go down to any court if I don't have proof of claim, because the name of the game is he who enters more evidence into the record wins the case. So what you're seeing now on TV is you see a lot of lawyers, attorneys, esquires, whatever have you. They'll always use the word, well, I can argue this. How do you get past a person who's arguing a case? And I'm just talking to people that's out there that may have situations that they're going to have to man up or woman up in and go challenge themselves. You don't want to go into a court case with minimal evidence where you got to argue against an attorney, because they're paid shit talkers. But what I've realized from my own experience is when you have evidence that you enter in the record, the opposing attorney was quiet. That built my confidence. Every time I entered a document into the record, there was no objection. Then you add on top of that, here's where the studying to show yourself approved comes in. You got to go in that law library and find case law that you can stand on. So when I cited my case law to the chief judge that was presiding over my case, I learned then the power of case law. That judge gonna have to vet it. And what you're really telling that judge in that lower court or that superior court is, hey, I'm bringing aware to you such and such case law. So if you don't rule in my favor, it's already on the record with the court reporter. If I gotta pay to get this transcript and take it to a higher court, I've already told you in this courtroom, I've cited to the case law showing you somebody else has been down this road before. There's been a warrior before me, and this is what the court deemed. So I just wanted to throw that in about the notary. The notary offsets you having an attorney. Anytime a notary notarizes that document, it allows you to submit that with the clerk of court. That judge is a referee. They're supposed to sit there and see who wins this fight. Adults are supposed to fight in court, not in the street. I'll stop right there. We'll get back to your question about the employee thing, Nichelle, once somebody looks up that legal definition.
I got it here. Can y'all hear me? You good? All right. So I was able to look it up. Legal definition says a person in the service of another under any contract of hire, express or implied, oral or written, where the employer has the power or right to control and direct the employee in the material details of how the work is to be performed. Also one who works for an employer, a person working for salary or wages. Let me see, it also says servant is synonymous with employee. So that is one of the other definitions there. Let me see, generally when person for whom services are performed has right to control and direct individual who performs services, not only as a result to be accomplished by work, but also as to details and means by which result is accomplished. Individual subject to direction is an employee. So there definitely does rhyme. It does rhyme. I would say just based off of, what is salary or wages? What can that possibly be? Since again, we know there is no money. So again, what would the definition or what would that employer or whoever's hiring this person define as wage or salary for that individual? So I can definitely see how that would pretty much be the same thing as a slave.
Right.
Again, working for reasonable wages.
Well, ooh, y'all want to have this conversation?
What's up?
I mean, because we closing it out.
Yeah.
We hit the out. So your thought on the legal definition of employee is that it's a slave. You would agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Based on
I would agree with what he just read. I mean, that's pretty much the same thing.
Mhm.
So if you're being compensated for work, so are you saying, Chief Biko, because they took the money out the system, that's what makes us slaves in current society?
I can see that. I can see that. Since again, we're not being paid actual tender to pay off debts, which again is just another form of slavery. If you're indebted to somebody, then you are hence a slave to that person until you pay off that debt. So again, if you take out the money, then you can never pay off said debt, which makes you a perpetual slave. Difference between that and the indentured servant. Let me see. Also, again, just thinking back, okay, working for reasonable wages. What were those wages again? Could wages be in the form of food? Could wages be in the form of shelter? So again, I think it's just kind of open up Pandora's box. Again, we know how this government's likes to speak with a forked tongue, mean one thing, but also say one thing, but mean another. So I would see definitely different interpretations of how that can go. But yeah, it definitely rhymes to me.
Chief Quietwater?
I agree. I agree. Basically, it's pretty clear to me.
Can you read it one more time? Because it was like 3 or 4 different definitions that you.
Okay. The first one is a person in the service of another under any contract of hire, express or implied, oral or written, where the employer has the power or right to control and direct the employee in the material details of how the work is to be performed. There's also another definition here where it says servant is synonymous with employee. That was from the Tennessee Valley Appliances versus Rowden. So that's from an actual court case. let me see here. Generally, when person for whom services are performed has right to control and direct individual who performs services not only as to result to be accomplished by work, but also as to details and means by which result is accomplished. Individual subject to direction is an employee. So he's basically saying any individual that is subject to direction is an employee.
Okay.
I'm trying to look up the legal definition for salary and wages just to see if there's any different interpretations for that.
I don't know if I should speak on this one. Should I speak on it?
We keep it real on the Lost Confederacy, man.
Okay. So it's 4 quadrants in life. If you haven't read the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book, you got the E quadrant for employee, you got S quadrant for small business, you got B quadrant for business, big business, and you got I quadrant for investor, right?
Right.
Each quadrant requires a different level of financial IQ. So the question I would ask people who are in the E quadrant, have you studied to show yourself approved as an employee in the E quadrant? And have you obtained enough financial IQ to navigate yourself out of that quadrant? If you haven't done so, then you can only look at yourself, not the person in the S quadrant or the big business or the small business quadrant that is employing you. That would be my first thing. The second thing is we're talking natural law. You got to be an apprentice before you become a master. So I think a lot of times, I know a lot of times with our people is we want to be masters and we're really apprentice. It's almost like I want more fire from my fireplace, but I don't want to put more wood in to get the fire.
Yeah.
You want to run your own operation, but you haven't even developed the correct work ethic or understanding in the E quadrant to move to another quadrant.
Correct. Got to pick up skills from each quadrant.
If you're running something, most people who run stuff, those were the people that were in the E quadrant. They did doubles. They did a bunch of overtime. It's your work ethic first. If you got sorry work ethic in the E quadrant, you think just because you go into business, you're gonna all of a sudden bust your ass? So I think a lot of times we misapply, or we like to fancy ourselves as having the ability to do certain things before we really have the ability to do certain things. That's my thought on it. I'm gonna stop right there because that's gonna rub a lot of people the wrong way, but it's the truth. Because if you're really good at what you're doing, you'll come to that own realization that there's no amount of money you can pay me. That's spiritual.
That's a different being. No, that's true. That's true. I'm gonna just read the legal definitions of salary and wages. Salary, a reward or recompense for services performed. In a more limited sense, a fixed periodical compensation paid for services rendered. A stated compensation paid periodically as by the year, month, or other fixed period, in contrast to wages, which are normally based on an hourly rate. So again, nothing regarding money in regards to what a salary is. So again, just a reward. So what could that reward be for a, let me see, a prisoner of war? Because we're not going to use the word slave. So what could that reward be for a prisoner of war who's working a particular trade underneath military occupation? All right, you'll get food rations. That's your reward for the work that you provided, type of thing. So again, nothing regarding anything money-wise. I think they intentionally steered away from the word money for that reason. And then just wages, a compensation given to a hired person for his or her services, compensation of employees based on time worked or output of production. And that is what wages is. Let me see. Every form of remuneration payable for a given period to an individual for personal services, including salaries, commissions, vacation pay, dismissal wages, bonuses, and reasonable value of board, rent, housing, lodging, payments in kind, tips, and other similar advantage received from the individual's employer or directly with respect to the work for him. That's another definition there. There.
So as you read them definitions, it really just depends on who your mentor is when you go into a particular industry, since we're talking about the Black Congressional Caucus or people in the public sector. If you're taught how to enter a room, how to exit a room, how to speak a certain type of way, how to carry yourself at a luncheon, and you're not in the room with the people from the Asian caucus or the Hispanic caucus that are actually writing laws, then what happens to that federal employee that's a part of the Black caucus is you're learning a bunch of useless skills. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. Because if you're not in there with the people who actually write up bills and write up acts, then you're not a part of the creation of anything. And that's why that caucus is the oldest, the largest, and the weakest, and the sorriest, based on reviewing it.
Yeah, based on the results. It seems like you said we are more geared towards the
bullshit etiquette procedures. It's
correct.
Bullshit.
Yeah, the bullshit etiquette procedures, the chairman, how you're supposed to act in the public eye, but you're not doing any work outside of the public eye.
You weren't trained how to do it.
Correct.
And I'm just going to tie that in with Joe Biden this past week, his second State of the Union. What's the best thing that the Black Congressional Caucus did for this group of people? Tyree Nichols was murdered. They didn't enter any legislation into the House like the Asian caucus did. If you compare or contrast what the Asian caucus did with the murders in Atlanta to what the Black caucus did for Tyree Nichols, it doesn't compare, because the Asian caucus submitted documents to be voted on after the mass killing of their people in Atlanta in 2021 within a week. The Black Congressional Caucus, because they're unskilled at working for us, they said, you know what? You at least got to get up and speak, Joe Biden. And so what they did is say, you know what? Let's take it a step further. Since you didn't mention us in your first State of the Union address, since you've been president, at least bring the family up. And let them stand up for 15 seconds and then sit down, which is basically what happened. And that's supposed to be enough for us. And so what I'm saying to everybody on the panel and anybody who's listening or anybody who listens to this video, that is below standard. The standard is entering documents into the House to be voted on. Nothing other than that should matter. Basically what they shown us is that man video was aired 2 weeks ago. They ain't entered shit into the House. So miss me with your State of the Union, miss me with flying the family up there, having them stand up and sit down in 15 seconds. And then all the bougie Negroes gonna nitpick what Joe Biden said for the remainder of the week. Well, he did say this, he did say that. Yeah, but what got entered into the record? Who actually wrote the documents and submitted something to change something? That's where the miseducation of our group as a whole, that's why we're being left behind in this race for success as a group of people.
And for that to continue to go over our head, it just boggles my mind. I mean, I just don't get it. Like, at what point are we going to say, okay, something just ain't right about this? But each and every single time, it's the same exact narrative in regards to what happens, same steps.
Yeah, like you said, the bougie niggas of our group will nitpick what was said and what wasn't said. Well, at least, ain't no at least. Again, there's a standard. You're not up to that standard, then we're gonna hold your ass accountable. Again, like you said, just proper etiquette. Just at least acknowledge them when they walk in the room. For the family of, Tyree Nichols. Stand up, everybody clap, will say something about executive order, but again, if you know their procedure, executive order is not law. That's supposed to put force behind law, but again, there is no law. What happened to the George Floyd reform for policing? Now they have this other thing with Tyree that they're trying to put into the George Floyd, which again, wasn't even passed in the first place. So again, what executive order are you putting force, or what force are you putting behind what law? There is no law for you to put force behind. So again, if you don't understand this procedure, you'll just say, oh yes, you got an executive order that has no fucking power because there is no law to put behind that executive order. That's like you having the engine of a damn drag race car with no wheels. You're not going nowhere. So what are we?
That's a good one.
You know, what are we applauding for?
Well, let's bring it back to the statement with the employee statement that y'all brought up. That's like working at a company and nobody wants to show you anything. When you're in a situation where nobody wants to show you something, it's because they fear that you may be able to do said job better than them.
Yeah.
So now look at your Congressional Black Caucus and look at why is the masses of us so miseducated? Why does 9 out of 10 of us don't even know who the Black Congressional Caucus are? Because if you start to understand what their responsibilities are and what they're supposed to be doing, now you can hold them accountable. So the dumber we are as a group, that allows them to skate with their inadequate skill set.
Yeah, and honestly, before we even started this whole channel and you know, doing our studying, I had no clue who they were, what they were for. I didn't know anyone who was on, you know, on the committee, none of that. So didn't even know the name. I've heard the name, but I didn't know what they were for.
Thank
They
you.
definitely don't work for us.
I never knew that there was a group that was supposed to be represented within Congress. So again, I think what that just highlights is that, you know, one, this information, they're doing a poor job of marketing. That's one. But two, also as adults, we have to, again, show ourselves approved. As Chief Alligator stated earlier, if you're an employee and you want to raise, you have to show yourself approved. And as you know, adults, we have to again understand this system if we plan on destroying it and creating our own. We're seeing that none of these procedures, none of these policies, rules, how this stuff is supposed to be running actually is running that way. But again, unless we actually looked at this document, we would think everything was running smoothly.
And I appreciate both of y'all being honest with what y'all just shared, because somebody in the chat said it as well. IG the Finisher said he didn't either.
Same.
So we have to be honest with ourselves. How many of us even knew who the Black Caucus was? But even going deeper than that, the people who don't want us to know because they're not promoting what they're supposed to be doing and who they are, from my experience in life, when those people get upset, they'll turn around and say, just play the game. See, the game for the prisoner of war is to you get in position and then you keep your people clueless about what you're supposed to be doing, and you ride that out until you're able to get your retirement, your pension, or whatever it is. That's why nothing happens for us. A healthy environment to be in would be you clearly know what has to be demonstrated. You clearly know what it is that you have to know. And then now it's up to you to study to show yourself approved. That's what all these other groups are doing. They have farm systems. They know how to pick their people who are going to write the legislation, i.e. the Asian caucus. That's how they were able to write something in a week as soon as that mass murder happened. They already had, all that took was a phone call. Hey, yo, look, we need y'all to change this ASAP. We don't have that. What we have is a farm system of people coming out of HBCUs or whatever colleges that they're coming out of, and they are trained on how to fake the funk, not get shit done. And we have to be honest with that as a group of people, and we have to ask some people to politely step down, or we might have to egg you in public and embarrass you, but you got to get out the way. I'm sorry, you can't hide behind your dysfunction and your ineptitude because of your college degree. And I think that's been shown with the football and the HBCU, the Deion Sanders, the Ed Reed. You got these people coming from these high-level organizations that did it at the highest level, and then they come around us and they're like, God damn.
What's going on?
You know, so this has been a good bill today.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is, when the everyday person understands how this shit works, it's gonna be hard for these niggas to keep fucking us over. But pay attention to your lack of protection at the federal level through your Black Caucus. Tyree Nichols' murder has been it's been over 2 weeks now. This coming up Friday will be 3 weeks. Nothing has been entered into the House to be voted on to protect you. So anticipate another lynching being aired for the world to see. It's not gonna stop. It's not gonna stop. And they can't write legislation for us specifically, which is why we're reading the Civil Rights Act, because they waged unlawful war against the Negro, Black, and colored. The only word we're seeing in this act is person. So this document was for the world to come and become US citizens. The United States government was saying, hey, you can send people of color from around the world, and we're not gonna do you like we did the nigga. Meanwhile, the nigga never got justice out of all the towns destroyed, the public lynchings, 15,000 people watching us get burned alive in the middle of town square. So when you ride through these historically old downtowns in the South, understand, somebody probably got lynched in downtown Main Street, whatever city. That's the reality. I'm done.
I think we can end it right there, man. Agree with everything you just stated right there. But again, we're gonna continue to read through these documents. We already know the result as far as it not pertaining to our group, not mentioning our group specifically, and definitely not providing any remedy for, again, the murders, the killings, the stealing of our inventions, everything that happened. But again, we're just looking at the procedure as well and seeing if this shit is actually being applied, and especially if it's being applied for us, which we obviously know it's not. So we definitely appreciate y'all in the chat. Shout out to everybody, especially your honesty. Again, transparency for myself and Chief Quietwater, not being aware of what, the Congressional Black Caucus was, what they did, if they were even a thing for our group. But again, that's just the first step of recovery, being honest with yourself and then putting in the work to improve on yourself as well. I mean, like Chief Alligator stated, once we all are quick with this shit, able to cite certain documents and actually peep game, actually be able to read the numbers coming down within this matrix, game over. Shit gonna be destroyed. It's gonna be game over. So definitely shout out to y'all for taking time out your Sunday. Again, a lot of distractions going on today, one of the biggest distractions. And shout out to y'all for staying 10 toes down and putting in the work.
Yeah, thank everyone for tapping in tonight, and everyone have a great week.